Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, where we interview remarkable people and share strategies for mastering money and living a meaningful life. With your host, Grant Sabatier, creator of Millennial Money and author of Financial Freedom, a proven path to all the money you will ever need.
Hey everyone, it's Grant. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to make a very special announcement. Next May, I'll be hosting a 2-day in-person event called the Financial Freedom Summit, where over 50 speakers who've reached financial independence will share how they've done it and show you how you can too. Many of my friends and past guests on this podcast, including Vicki Robin and J.D. Roth and Christiane Bryce, will be in attendance, and many more speakers will be released soon. I wanted to announce that early bird tickets are now available at financialfreedomevents.com. I've wanted to host an in-person event for the past 5 years, and one of the number one questions I get is, where can we meet other people pursuing financial independence? Well, this is the place, and I can't be more excited to release this conference to the world and see you in St. Louis next spring. To learn more and get tickets, visit financialfreedomevents.com. Hey everyone, I'm really excited today to chat with a good friend of mine, Jay Kelley, who is the CEO of Peak Mobile. So I've been asked many times before and always declined, but with Peak, I saw a unique opportunity to become an advisor with them, to work with them and help them really address the savings problem head on. We know that the average American saves about 3% of their income, which is not nearly enough to reach financial independence, let alone retire in less than 40 years. So when I met Jay and the Peak Mobile team, I was really inspired by their stories, but even more inspired by their mission to truly help others. So I wanted to bring Jay on the show because he's really the originator of this concept, of this idea. They're doing some really amazing things at Peak, and really excited to chat. And thanks for coming on the show, Jay.
Hey, thank you so much, Grant. It's a real pleasure to connect with you here, and an honor to be on your show.
So Peak Mobile, just so everyone's aware, is a money app with a mindfulness focus. As you know, in the work that I do, it's really heavily built around the idea of being more mindful with your spending and really your relationship with money. And, you either control money or let it control you. And mindfulness, just really in all areas, has changed my life over the past decade. And all mindfulness is simply being aware and recognizing truly what's going on. And when it comes to money, I haven't seen an app like this before, which was really exciting to me. And so I want to take it back a little bit, Jay. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and when you got interested in mindfulness.
Absolutely. So, my own story is really one of moving from a state of total burnout to vitality. And then after that, and it's not an, unfamiliar story. I think your story has echoes of it too. After that, really wanting to share insights from that journey related to physical and emotional well-being, and then expanding it into the money context. So for me, it really started coming off the heels of a whirlwind startup experience in the media space, where I learned a lot, but I came out of that experience totally fried. So my body was inflamed. I had brain fog. I was, sort of running on nonstop adrenaline. I was in a different city every week, total workaholic. And really riding on adrenaline. And so I know a lot of people listening will probably maybe they can identify a moment in their lives where they feel like, okay, if my adrenal gland stops working now, I'm just going to totally collapse. And so I was on the edge of collapse. And so my sort of pivotal moment was really entering a new startup, but it was more than that. I mean, it was really entering a group of people. And this group of people, the founders and the people that they had gathered around them, were really amazing. They had a number of characteristics that really, I wouldn't have been able to sort of launch on this journey without. One was that they were incredibly supportive. They really encouraged people to try things, to fail, to sort of move through them, and they genuinely cared. And then beyond that, they had this sort of optimizer streak, right? Can you really make every aspect of your life better and better, incrementally, step by step, trying things, failing, trying things, succeeding, and just go on this journey. So it was really meeting, and you've met some of these guys, Michael Brooks and Jonathan Yeagle and Amber Cox, they're just incredible people. And they're all much younger than I am too. They're 15 years younger. So I was entering this group of really energetic and vital people to begin with. So from there, I've got this headshot of entering this company. They put out a press release, and the headshot, I go back, I actually refer back to it, and the team refers back to it too. I put today's headshot and that headshot together, and my face is really puffy, and my eyes have rings under them, and my just who I am, whatever that is, the energy of who I am was just not even breaking through the surface of my face. So at that point, I really just, in the context of the business, first of all, because we were working on a social media platform that helped people to connect and socially support each other around healthy, active accomplishments. So running and yoga and, eating well, all of these things. I started my own experiments. And over the course of about 3 years, I actually mapped every single one of these. And there was a lot of trial and error. And so I have this big slideshow that I give where on this map is me bouncing around over the course of 3 years from, trying to play soccer with these guys who are 15 years younger than me and failing miserably because they totally destroyed me, to doing 10-minute workouts, but getting bored of that, to, trying to go running, on road running, but getting, sort of injured, and all of these different things. But around all of those experiments is this scaffolding of people. So I actually have all these arrows of different people who got me into one experiment, helped me through it. If I failed, moved me on to the next one. It includes my coworkers and my wife and my kids and friends. So there's this huge sort of social support scaffolding. And it basically moves me through all of these things and culminates with doing some ultras, some 65-mile single-track trail races on mountain bike, and a bunch of big trail runs. And so through all of that, there are really a couple of things that I found were really foundational. And I think without them, I wouldn't have really been able to sustain all the other things. One was just deep nutritional biohacking, which I don't want to get into right now because it's a deep rabbit hole. But the other one was mindfulness. And so when I, began my mindfulness practice, it was really introduced to me and to our group by the trauma chief at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. And we were working to use a digital platform to deliver, prompts or invitations to take a mindful moment out of a day that, for a lot of people on the trauma unit, was full of death and, incredible stress. And so I just said, okay, well, I'm going to try this. If it's something that's being used as an intervention for people in a trauma unit, it probably could be useful for me too. And within 2 weeks of starting, I have a conversation with my wife. I didn't even really tell her that I was doing this. And she comes up to me and she says, you are just becoming the best version of yourself. And when your spouse tells you that, you pay attention.
Absolutely.
You have to pay attention. And then I find out, kind of a few weeks later, that had I not really changed course in that way specifically, my marriage probably would not have lasted. And so I am so deeply grateful. I know you have had these moments, and I was listening to Arianna Huffington previously about her wake up call, which was she was so exhausted that she fell and hit her face, and woke up having been knocked out because she wasn't sleeping properly. So we all have these wake up calls. This one was almost in retrospect, but as I said at the top, one of the things that had suffered so much in that period of workaholism and burnout was my relationships with my wife, who has been the deepest social supporter that I could ever ask for, with my kids, with my coworkers. So this kind of thing, and I know it's sort of a familiar pattern, but it's the type of thing that really drives people on these missions. And so, the mission that we set out on with some of the precursor products that we built was really to empower other people to reach their peak potential by maximizing their well-being. And so we identified all of these different ways, physically, socially, and emotionally. And so, then the question, comes up frequently when I talk about this stuff is well, how does money enter into the equation? Maybe I could ask, you about, a little bit about your experience. I know this is your show, but I think you've kind of come at this from maybe the other direction. So you started with mindfulness, you started with money, and you've kind of come in towards maybe other aspects of well-being. So I'd love to hear about your experience, kind of from the other direction, and then I'll dive into sort of how what we're doing enters the money space.
Yeah. So, I was like a lot of people in the sense that when I was 24, I felt like, if only I had $1 million, everything in my life will be better. I will be happier and calmer, and it'll solve all of my problems, which my biggest problem at that time was my stress around money. I fortunately or unfortunately, depending upon how you look at it, chased that dream all the way to the end, until I made it, and pretty much lost my mid to late 20s because all I was doing was working. On the flip side, now hopefully I have 50 plus years of freedom that I can enjoy because of those sacrifices, but wasn't very mindful throughout that process. I'd love to say that when I was 24 and I started this, I certainly was aware of what I was spending and that I needed to save more money, but I think there are different degrees of mindfulness. And I was more at the stage of, okay, you need to save money. Here's how to do all these things. What I didn't realize was that a lot of the freedom and peace that I was craving in my life, that's what I really wanted, even though I wouldn't have named it that. I already had so much of it, even a year into my financial journey, and I didn't realize that until reflecting back on it. So mindfulness to me it's kind of like a muscle where, it feels good, if you're kind of stiff, and maybe it's because you've sat at your desk all day or you slept weird, and you wake up and you stretch and you really kind of release that muscle. To me, that's kind of the first level of mindfulness, where all of a sudden you're just aware of something that you weren't aware of before. You're able to pay attention to it. What's evolved to me now is, I think, mindfulness, instead of being a intentional one-off type of conscious act where I'm like, I'm going to be mindful about this, it now permeates all areas of my life. And so it's like my muscle is loose, and so I don't have to stretch it as much. Or it's like I'm kind of always stretching, if that makes sense. And so my mindfulness has now grown to permeate all areas of my life, and money being one piece of that. Where I still struggle is certainly on the other side of the coin of being mindful about, the everyday choices around my physical activity and my diet. And, those are things where I feel like I've conquered money, but that other side of health being wealth that I know we're going to chat a little bit about today is one of the things, and one of, that I continue to work on. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to help you all, because I see those two, your health and then your money, being extremely complementary. And I'm excited to dive more. But tell us a little bit about how you, discovered or let's say integrated mindfulness into your own money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess to take a step back to like how we even started thinking about money in the first place. So you've got this mission-driven group of people, right? And we're in the digital fitness and wellness world, and we're going to, all these employer groups, and we're in these healthcare conferences, and we keep hearing sort of, this is kind of from the outside over and over again, financial stress and financial issues are impacting all these employees, and that it's causing major productivity problems in the workplace. And so, that was kind of the first thing. We're like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And we knew, there were financial wellness programs, but, it just started to become a part of the conversation. Then, one of these things, we're actually approached by a bank, and the bank is trying to deliver financial wellness, and the bank kind of says, hey, what if we actually, took some of this holistic approach that you guys are taking around physical well-being, around social well-being, around emotional well-being, and really bring money and even transacting and housing money into the picture. So we were intrigued, and internally we sort of, had all these conversations with our product team, and we really asked ourselves a couple questions. Number one, like, would we be passionate about this? Could we do this? But number two, it was, okay, so, how many of us, are actually applying all of the things that we've learned to, run that, ultra marathon, to eat well, applying all of those general principles, mindfulness, good social support to our money lives. And nobody really was, and nobody was talking about it. It was still like shrouded in this taboo. And we felt like, well, there is a real opportunity to sort of build this vision that we have, right, which is total well-being around something that you have to do in a modern society, which is house and transact money. You don't really have to go out and run. You don't really have to, do a lot of the other things. Well, you do have to eat. You certainly don't have to be mindful or meditate, but you do have to hold and use money in order to move through society. So we felt like it was a unique, interesting opportunity. So fast forward to earlier this year, we launch what is really our first step. And we did a lot of market testing ahead of time, which is really, okay, of all of the financial sort of functions that, people in our target market, which are people in their 20s and 30s, of all the things that you really feel like you need help with, what is it? And the resounding answer was savings. And then of all of the pains that you have, whether specific or general, what is it? What's at the top of the list? And it was stress, just this generalized stress. And, interestingly, it just aligned really well with that thing that really was foundational for me and has been foundational for a lot of other people in our company, which is mindfulness. So in our foundational product, we not only have the ability to set goals for your savings, but we've built into that a suite of mindfulness features, so we can bring some kind of mindfulness in close proximity to your management of your money. So, example number one, we actually built a meditation feature into the app. I don't know of another personal finance app that has a meditation feature built into it. We just felt like, and actually we didn't feel like it. There are studies about the cortisol spikes that people get when they just think about money, when they think about their paycheck, when they think about their bills, when they think about their lack of savings. They get a cortisol spike. This is a stress response. It does damage to your immune system. It frays your telomeres at the end of your genes and leads to rapid aging. So can we really bring people back in, look at your money, cultivate a relationship with it, and at that point develop at least a rudimentary mindfulness practice? So that was step number one. Then inside the app, we decide, okay, we have the opportunity to deliver messaging. So we actually, just like we've done in the past, I described with those Vanderbilt University Medical Center trauma unit employees, where we were delivering these invitations to take a mindful moment out of your day. We're actually doing that inside the app. One of which is to put the phone down that you're using to receive this message and go and look at something beautiful. So we have this interesting ambivalent relationship with technology. We try to use technology to bring people into better balance with their own lives and perhaps to slow down their use or be more mindful about their use of the same technology. One other thing that we deliver is we actually encourage people to get up and to walk around the block or to do some exercise, and we tell them why. And we're doing this in a money app. And this is kind of a segue into the next big insight that we had, which really kind of brings us full circle, which was that, people who are successful at fitness, who are fitness lovers, we call them our fitness tribe. They already have a toolkit that can help them be successful with money, even though many of them are not, because they haven't actually brought that same toolkit over into the money context. And so what we're doing right now is we've built that foundation, right? Savings and stress. Now we're going forward and we're going to really take what we have and build it for people who love fitness, to help them reach their financial goals faster. And so how can we do that? Well, we can do that by helping them to both track and to reward the good financial habits that they have in a way that's motivating and engaging to, again, fitness lovers, building on the existing strengths that they have in a language that they can understand. So we're incredibly excited about this. Part of it is, can you reach a group of people you can have good success with, and then from there, use that success to ripple out to other groups of people. So this group of people is ripe for success. And if we can be successful for them, if we can help people who are successful in fitness, pull it over into the money context, then I think, and you and I were talking about this in a previous conversation, we actually have the opportunity to help people who might be good in the money context to go in the other direction. And that is getting us even closer to this vision that we have for peak life, which is really, again, this all-encompassing, peak potential and well-being maximizing system.
Can you talk a little bit about what you've learned being in the wellness space and the development space? I mean, what truly moves the needle for people? I mean, you've obviously seen this in your own life, but what are those 2 or 3 things that you think for someone who, maybe they're hearing this and they're just like, I want to turn things around? What are the first couple steps that you think are going to have the biggest immediate gains for people, whether it comes to money or let's just say wellness generally?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really all starts with why. Why are you doing this? We've found so many people will start with a diet plan or an exercise plan or a money plan. And if they're doing it just to do it because it's right or because they know they should, something like that, they will encounter some obstacle and fail. And if they fail a few times, they are likely to give up. Getting to that why, and it doesn't even have to be a huge why, like, world peace. It's got to be a personal why, right? And so in the wellness space, oftentimes there's this thing called social coaching. So oftentimes you start by asking why, and the reason that, let's say, somebody is trying to get from a metabolic syndrome state to, actually being able to walk around the block or do a 5K is something like, I want to see my daughter walk down the aisle. I want to live to see that. I want to see my son graduate from college. I want to live long enough to see these wonderful things happen or to have the energy to help other people, right? So it all starts with why, and then, getting some specificity around your goals. The next big thing is really commitment. And commitment can be different for different people, but you typically need a mechanism to commit. And I'll say for me personally, I typically need to basically register for a big race in order to enforce the training to actually do the race. So, one example is there's this mountain bike race called the Black Bear, and there's another one called the Big Frog. They're in the Ocoee area of Tennessee in the Rocky or in the Smokies. So, I actually register. I pay money, so I've got skin in the game, and then there's a social support aspect to it. I start to tell as many people as I can about it so that if I try to back out, I'm going to be a little bit ashamed. So some mechanism for commitment is important. And, committing in the money space could be, actually, and I know this is counterintuitive to a lot of people, particularly in the fire space, but putting some money down for a system or for something that is going to help you to actually get your money act together, whether it's a course or it's an app or something, or getting a friend to hold you accountable. So really commitment and accountability, and that's the social support aspect. That's another big thing. Another key step is really setting up your routine. And so let's start in kind of the exercise space. That's kind of the easiest, clearest example. For people who want to get up and exercise, so let's say go on that run, the longer the time period between when you wake up and you put on your shoes and get out the door, every second and every minute that passes, the lower the likelihood that you're actually going to get out onto the road and do that run. So if your routine is, I wake up, I put my shoes on immediately, I step outside, then you're going to be much more likely to be successful. And if you can get that routine set up, if it's every other day or every day, then it becomes just a part of your life. The other interesting part of this, and I know you've interviewed, was it James Clear, who talks a lot about habit stacking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of habit stacking. So I am always mixing and matching different things. So, stretches, and then while I'm stretching, I'm typically also doing some mindful breathing. I mean, I have a whole morning routine that's got like 7 or 8 stacked habits. So can you actually, this may be a crazy sounding example, but while you're brushing your teeth, which is something you have to do every day, can you pull out your money app and just check your balance or check your transactions? So building it into your day in a way that I do this, I'm successful doing this one thing. Can I build success, on top of that previous success is incredibly important. And then, finally it's tracking your progress. So, there's so many different ways to do this that it can be overwhelming. Tracking can be as easy as keeping a journal, writing something down on parchment if you want to get really old school, or, diving into any number of tracking apps. And, they span just about everything that you want. I mean, everything gets piped into Apple Health or Google Fit on the health space. There are plenty of apps that track your money, both your finances, your savings, your total net worth. But these principles are an easy carry over from fitness. And so that's really what we're focused on. You've been successful here. Let's get you successful too over here, and let's make it familiar, and let's build on that.
So when can Peak users expect kind of this next rollout of Peak Life?
Yeah. So we do things very carefully and deliberately. So let me tell you about our process a little bit. Right now, we are engaged with that fitness tribe. Luckily, we know that tribe really well because we've spent a lot of time with them. So we're doing a lot of conversations, a lot of questions, a lot of surveys, a lot of deep dives. Because what we want to do is we want to know, okay, how does this, the money problem uniquely affect this group of people, and how can this group of people uniquely solve it? So from there, we come into the team, and we do a lot of ideation. There's also a lot of opportunities here for partners, because people who are in the fitness tribe congregate in very specific places. They congregate in health clubs. They congregate on very specific digital platforms. They're reachable that way. There are ways to build value and connectivity that way. So parallel to our product ideation, we also have some partnership outreach. So I would say, like, over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to be really going through that process. And then I would say shortly after that, we'll begin leaning into this process of then rolling out one sort of innovation at a time, building and deepening value for our fitness friends.
Hey, Jay, it's just been a real pleasure to chat with you about your vision, your mission. I remain a big believer in Peak Money. To learn more, you can check out peakmoney.com or search for Peak Money on the App Store. It's currently only available on Apple, but is an Android version in the future, Jay?
Android version is definitely in the future. We'll let everybody know when we're getting close on that.
So thanks for joining, and I look forward to future conversations. Everyone go out and check out Peak Money, and hope you have a good day, Jay.
All right. Thanks so much, Grant. It was a real pleasure, as always.
Thanks for listening to the Financial Freedom Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe. To learn more, get show notes, and dive deeper, visit financialfreedombook.com.